I've been watching the extended edition of The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, the 4-hour version, which contains some really important extra material that adds a lot of context that was missing from the theatrical release. There's so much about the Lord of the Rings trilogy that speaks to themes of personal sacrifice, coming of age, transformation, honor, responsibility, humility, and of course, a clear distinction between good and evil. The power of the ring and its effects on people shows us the susceptibility of the individual to corruption, power, temptation, greed, and the material, that a person can lose sight of what matters in a quest for vanity and personal gratification. It cannot be underlined just how much Peter Jackson achieved in bringing Tolkien's message and meaning to the screen. There's clearly been an attempt with Rings of Power to update Tolkien's work for a modern audience, right? As it so often happens in Hollywood these days. And by update, I mean improve, change, subvert. I mean, these are all euphemisms, in my opinion, for ruin of all the intellectual properties to receive the modern audience treatment. It feels especially egregious to do it to Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, not just because of the relevance and importance of the book trilogy's themes, but also because the Middle-earth saga is based on Celtic, Norse, and Germanic folklore and feels very much like a work of classical literary fiction with a deeper spiritual meaning and significance, rooted in real myths, important allegories, and profound Christian and pagan symbolism. I think Lord of the Rings is a deeper, divinely inspired work, actually, and though the lands and peoples of Middle-earth are obviously fictitious and fantastical, because they are partially based upon ancient legends and European mythology, Europeans in particular can relate to Tolkien's world because it resonates with them as if through some kind of shared, unconscious cultural memory. This is going to sound a bit weird to a lot of people and very much esoteric, but I don't think we're blank slates at birth in terms of memories, whether it's a knowledge that's passed through genes or something unseen, something in a person's soul, if you believe in such concepts. There's a greater collective knowledge that a people share. And whatever that is, whatever that happens to look like, it's unclear. But to try to express that, for centuries we've had storytellers and folklorists who have, for the most part, passed on ancient tales from generation to generation through word of mouth. They've embellished the stories, they've added to them, they've cherished them, and they've become part of culture and identity. And the world of Middle-earth never existed, obviously, but some elements of it do feel familiar for those reasons on some level. They capture some of these stories and express them in a highly developed and believable world that Tolkien created. The Peter Jackson films were a highly credible and canonical live-action adaptation of the books, and it's the reason they will always be a superb companion to them. The reason I say this is because no matter how much anyone tries to reinterpret what Tolkien has written in a way that Rings of Power does, it'll never work. Even if we put aside some of the representation stuff that's been inserted into Rings of Power, just the blandness of the writing, the dullness of the world and the characters. It's being written by people who I don't believe can appreciate what Tolkien was tapping into. And so that's the reason such adaptations will never matter, regardless of how rubbish they are. You see, they can never compete with the canon and therefore they can never damage it. The spiritual, artistic and cultural significance of Tolkien's work is simply too strong in the hearts and minds of generations of fans for it to ever be sullied by these lesser, inferior approximations. They feel like knockoffs. Rings of Power is not being written from the same place, in my view, and you can really feel that in how lackluster and predictable it is. Incidentally, right now on Rotten Tomatoes, at the time of making this video, it holds an audience score of 48%, below middle of the road. This article is from The Guardian. It's from September 15th. Hell on Middle-earth. The Rings of Power fails to spin streaming gold. Most expensive TV show ever is in its second season, but reviews are disappointing and audiences are staying away. Not surprising. People can tell the difference between a labor of love and a bland corporate product, a piece of generic content based on a popular IP. Audiences want as much authenticity as possible in their storytelling, and when you watch the behind-the-scenes commentaries and interviews from the cast and crew of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Peter Jackson trilogy, you can really hear how much those films meant to them, how emotionally invested everyone was in making them, and how moving it was to be part of the filming in New Zealand. That passion and enthusiasm made it onto the screen, probably because they knew they were working on a once-in-a-lifetime significant work of fiction. Rings of Power may bear the Lord of the Rings name, the character names, the place names, but it's all surface level in my view, like a Lord of the Rings veneer. Beneath that surface is a work of spiritually and creatively hollow fiction, and that's the reason why Rings of Power will never sully Tolkien's legacy. No matter how bad it is, it's the reason the show won't be remembered, and why it'll never matter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.